Commander Cockings and Captain Foley here, yet again for another Trekyards mission briefing, fan design. This is the more relaxed discussion show taking a look at a fan design ship of the Trek Expanded universe. We'll discuss it, theorise, and see what the ship is all about.
And this week, it's time to put the hammer down. Because we'll be taking a look at the USS Hammer, designed by Don Meiklejohn. Meiklejohn? Hope I got that right. Cool. So yeah.
This is an odd little ship, which apparently is just a little smaller than Voyager, but I know there's a lot of things under the hood, as it were, for this ship. So let's get started.
Yeah, this one's definitely cool. And there's the description, all the information we get for these fan ships is going to be in the description below, so you guys can check it out. But we tend not to look at it prior to doing these because mission briefings are just about our views and our thoughts and our discussion. So,
and we've got this wide array of knowledge on Trek ships. We just want to our first impressions, analysis, and then for the designers to then come and say, hey, this is wrong, or hey, you designed stuff we didn't think of. But anyway, this first picture is a really nice shot, good looking 3D model.
Nice stocky little ship too, very reminiscent of the Defiant.
Yes, I believe that was one of the inspirations. Although, first question, does it feel like Star Trek? Does Star Trek design? If you take out the nacelles and the color scheme, would this feel like a Star Trek design?
The shape of the bridge module would say yes, but overall, you know what it reminds me of is just one of these ships, one of the fighters from Star Trek Shattered Universe, the game, or Invasion. But it just feels like a Federation fighter type design. But I can see why you wouldn't think it was a Star Trek ship as far as bigger ships go.
Yeah, I think if the nacelles were possibly longer, it would take away from the design, but I think if maybe the nacelles were brought down a bit and pushed longer, it might work better. I don't know, but it's one of those things like the Defiant obviously feels Star Trek because we're so used to it, but obviously at the time I think many people would think that's so radical. So this is probably one of those, it's very radical. Although it seems to follow in some respect the Vengeance style of having this space at the front.
I was just going to say that. It looks a little like a bottle opener, so I wonder if some of the design influence was the Vengeance.
And again, I'd love to know the practical reason for that, because it's not the fact they've built a hole in, it's the fact that they've built around that, and now there's a phaser strip clearly at the front, USS Hammer, so what is in that section apart from a phaser array? And why not just fill in the space? Or unless it's maybe you can put some pods in there. I don't think it's designed for that, but wouldn't it be cool if you had two pods that would then connect and you had another like secondary shuttle or a captain's yacht that would just attach there?
That would be cool.
That would be cool. So what jumps out at you then?
First thing that jumps out at me is that hole we just talked about. But beyond that, the engines and the way they attach to the hull. And there's a reason for that. We know this. But
it is a really interesting design, though. I love the details. There's a lot of little things that have been put here.
One thing that you kind of brought up in our pre-discussion about this, the windows.
Yes, I was about to say.
All the windows seem to be on the interior edge, like there's no outward-facing windows.
They're also circular, so they're more like portholes rather than the classic window. I mean, it's unusual to see so much hull detailing without that window. Now, that could point towards it being a smaller ship, but like we said in the intro, it's meant to be around the same size as Voyager, which is a slightly odd scaling, I think, for this style of ship. Or it could be because it's armoured and designed for war, in which case windows could be a hull weakness, but then other ships don't seem to have that issue. Akira and Saber and whatnot.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's tough to know what the designer was thinking. There's probably a very specific reason for it. So
it gives it a different feel, though, because we are used to those sorts of lights. But there's a lot of things that a lot of nice details. Like, so the engines are really cool. I like how integrated they are, but yet still have that nacelle look. Very Defiant-like. And another thing I kind of like is it's kind of reminiscent of the Nova. Is if inside the bridge module there's these little recessed hull bits with detailing. Kind of feels like the Nova at the front.
One thing that's kind of a missed opportunity, though, there's a phaser strip at the front and one's on the nacelles. But there's a long strip on the side there that would be perfect for a long phaser strip. And if it's a ship designed for war, to be a warship or whatever, I mean, that would be the perfect placement for
I think it would
long
look good.
Phaser strip.
I think it would look good with that extra detail as well. I think it would add to it.
Yeah.
And also, I love there's still more to say on this. I love the bridge modules, cool, the recessed bits. It almost looks like the bridge can actually come out, and I believe it is meant to come out because it's got those two wing elements, almost. It wouldn't be cool to have the entire bridge module come out and be its own captain's yacht. Kind of radical,
Well,
but
they've played with that with a lot of Federation ships as a lifeboat. Even the TOS Connie, the one section was supposed to come out, the ABC deck for it as lifeboat. So it follows the Federation kind of idea.
And we know that most of these old ships, they're just meant to slot out because a new one comes in. That's how you refit the bridge modules. You just slot it all in. So it's not too far to say, okay, let's give it some big impulse engines now. Why not? Well, I'm interested to what is that part behind the bridge. I mean, there's this. It almost looks like doors, like that's the shuttle bay, which would link into the Defiant, how it's got that under shuttle bay. But what is that section at the back with that grill?
I don't know. I've been looking at that, trying to think of something to say about it, and I don't know what it could be.
And are they where you would think the RCS thrusters are, those four on each side of the primary? Are they escape pod hatches, or are they?
That's exactly what I was thinking as well. I didn't want to say anything about it because they should be RCS thrusters, but there's too many of them.
Yeah, and I mean,
and they don't look the right shape or size. Like
it's like the designers said, but these details in all Federation ships haven't realized they're RCS thrusters. Possibly, we don't know. Although there are ones right at the back of the saucer. There's yellow bits with the red glow. Interesting.
Let's move on to the next picture and get the other perspective of the ship.
Oh wow, that's a different perspective.
This is from the bottom. The first thing that jumps out at me right away when I see this, is that deflector dish looks almost exactly like the Sabre class deflector dish.
Actually.
Same shape.
Which is probably a good thing. I mean, it makes sense to use base shapes because it feels like an evolution of the same design. So one thing about this photo, the warp nacelles look as if they're down a bit, sort of bird of prey-ish style, as opposed to the first picture where they seem much flatter.
Yeah, well, when we did the judging for this contest, one of the main points that the ship was built around was the fact that those pivot. I believe down is warp, and it pivots up to show the weapons emplacements.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah. I think there's actually a diagram showing that in a minute, but
I like it with the lower down profile. It's cool, and it gives it. I mean, you can see it's at warp. I think that's sort of the vibe it's going for there. But it looks, it gives it a cool feel.
Yeah. Another thing I got to point out too is there's portholes facing outwards this time on the bottom.
Yeah.
Which are not on the top. So.
And they're good scale though. Good scale.
And there's two photon launchers on each side at the front there.
Yes, that's good. That looks good. That pretty strong then to have four forward-facing torpedoes.
Yeah.
Another thing I noticed because we couldn't really see this in the previous photo, but at the back of the nacelles you can see the blue warp grills, the warp coils. But they're very thin. But I like that style. It's interesting.
Yeah. This is a neat little ship.
Although you commented last time about phaser strips, again, there's no bottom phaser strips. So although you have got another one at the bottom of the nacelle, so either side of the nacelle have phaser strips and there's one at the front. It does seem a little bit underpowered. There's literally a space there, right there for phaser strips.
Yeah.
Even two lines if you want to get. I mean, imagine if there was like a V shape sticking out the hull with two lines of phaser strips. That'd be.
Yeah.
Hell of a
thing. Like screaming, put a phaser strip here.
And a lot of escape pods, we assume.
Yeah.
Although, again, look at the edge, which we had a problem with last time. There's if they're doors, then at the front, that looks like the entire side of the ship is just a big escape pod. But then why on earth would you have? But that seems so it just pushes out of the ship,
or launches out straight out.
I don't know. That seems a bit odd to me.
It does,
especially since it's going to be pointing because it's pointing downwards. It'd go, and then it's got to maneuver out. It'd be safer to go up because you're not going to hit anything.
I'm thinking like the whole light gray part, top and bottom. The whole thing is a life pod, so it just comes straight out of the hull.
Oh, okay, like an XO1 style.
Super capacity life pod.
An XO1 style where it slides out of the hull.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I like it.
All right, so the next picture is, here we go. It's got the warp position and the weapons placement. Are those quantum torpedoes that stick up, do you think? From those?
Well, I think they're meant to be. I think in the notes they're meant to be linked into the plasma. I think meant to be phaser style cannons.
Oh, okay.
Because if you look at the first picture, they're long thin strips rather than a launcher. So it's some sort of plasma particle weapon, I believe. It's interesting. It looks more like the top view, which we haven't seen yet. When you close out that hole, I like the shape, but it's kind of Dominion-y, crabby. It's like
I was going to say it looks almost Dominion, yeah.
Dominion mixed with Starfleet. It's got this Starfleet aesthetic, but the contours. I mean, if you look at the back of the nacelles, that is a Dominion, hull, and then the back of the
And if you like have it fly backwards, it looks like Quark's shuttle with the little claws at the front.
Interesting. Yeah. Maybe they took some influences from Dominion. But I like the bridge module though. Again, it goes back further than you think. Although in this version, there are escape pods there as opposed to a big door. Well, no, I guess there's a big door in the other one, but there's not as much of a space there. We'll see. This is a early drawing, so scaling's changed.
So my idea, based on an improvement of the Defiant design and applied to a Starship variant, pivoting nacelles from warp mode to weapons deployment position.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. If you think back to, the motion picture, this was something that Starfleet was testing, redirecting power from the warp core from the engines directly into the phasers. I mean, it makes sense. It's a particle weapon. I mean, it's only limited by the amount of juice you can throw into it, and if the emitters can cope. So imagine, warp bends space. So what if happened if you actually channeled the full potential of the warp drive directly into the, because I'm sure just the warp engines being on standby must drain power. So imagine if you could transfer all of that into weapons. I mean, that's going to be a hell of a beefy shot. Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, technobabble and all, let's go to the next picture, where it shows how that kind of works, I think.
It's a very Rick drawing here. Rick Sternbach sort of drawing.
So we got the warp field coils, and we got the plasma cannons, so that's correct.
Okay.
Power diverter.
So the warp core is in the middle, and it transfers power to the warp cores, which then diverts into very zigzaggy, which might, be one of those ever-increasing feedback pulse thing to increase the weapon. But it implies that it's only the front of the... So the weapon is in the nacelle. Okay, so the bit that I was thinking of that was the weapon was that longer strip. And if we go back to the first picture, I know it's a bit difficult to go in and out, but if we go back to the first picture again, that long tubular shape, just next to the blue bit, that's what I thought the weapon was. But if you look at the diagram for the weapon, it's firing right. I mean, I can see where the in out bit is in the hull. But there's no apparent weapon part there, unless it does
There is. If you look at the first picture,
yes.
right, you see that long gray thing with the different little bumps on it?
Yeah.
If you look on the one near the upper part of the picture, you can see almost like a
tube or a...
Yeah, the nozzle of the thing kind of buried.
So maybe if it does go up, rather than more standby mode, then that might...
Yeah, well, we don't have a picture of it up, unfortunately. Actually, we do. If we're going to skip to the next picture, if that's okay.
Okay.
And the next picture, you can see them. They're still in the down position, but you can see where they come out of. They look like photon tube launchers.
Huh. Interesting.
That's really cool. Those would be powerful weapons.
So I didn't even realize what this picture was here. I should have checked. So this is obviously the early sketch, and yeah, it's interesting. So what do you think? One's like quantum, although you wouldn't like that, probably both multi-fire lasers. But I do like the repeating nature of it is actually physically in the hull. That's a nice detail.
Yeah, I think this is a great idea. I mean, it could be applied to different variations of ships, and I think to add that articulation in really makes the ship much more interesting. And I think to do it to different ships would be amazing.
I mean, I'd love to see orthos of this at every angle, because that's up, down, because that we're not really getting a sense of it in its up position. I mean, I like the bottom one though. I mean, that does kind of look cool, and give it much more of a aggressive sort of style. I think.
If you look at the lower left picture, where it's down.
Yeah.
It looks very Defiant-y.
Yes.
And then the next one with the weapons, it says weapons arc, but that puts the nacelles up. That would bury the weapon in.
Well, no, I think it pivots on the weapon itself. Although one little thing to note, it says 2009. This drawing, so this was pre-Vengeance. So he thought of let's put a hole in the saucer all by himself.
Interesting.
Cool. But no, really, I think what's great is if you then go to the next picture. I mean, that is basically the same angle, and wow, that is a great reproduction of the sketches. It's really nicely done. I'd love to play around this model and see how it looks in flight and just the angles. I mean, I think this ship needs to be developed more because the design is cool and the concept is interesting, but we need to see more. We need to see it, come out of warp and then change the positioning and see how it feels, because that is the Intrepid class's articulation is a pretty sore subject on a lot of people. You either hate it, love it, or you really don't like it. I think it's okay. This takes that to a whole nother level, but we haven't really seen it, so I think that needs to be something that has to happen.
I agree, 100%. I would love to see more views of this in different configurations.
Yeah.
So,
but it's interesting, and although I would say, like I said, the scale, I think it feels a little bit compact to be an Intrepid size. That would be one of my only things. I think it probably a little bit smaller than that, because Intrepid actually is about the same size as a Connie, and I don't know, it feels a bit smaller than that scale wise. And more phaser strips.
Yes.
But yeah, so, cool design. Yeah, I like it.
I think that's it though for this one. Yeah. But Don, you did a great job. We would love to see this developed a little bit more. Yeah, this has so much potential, and it's definitely a nice advancement as far as Starfleet design goes. So,
but I think there are a few more cues that can add to make it a little more Federation, like the phaser strips. Maybe the RCS thrusters be a bit more obvious. I mean, there's a few things that could be done to give it a bit more Federation feel. Maybe make the back of the I guess the nacelles a bit more nacelle-y. Maybe a bit more of a combination rather than just the Defiant have both parts be blue. I think you could really push this to feel more Federation without too much difficulty. But yeah, really interesting. And I think when I saw this for the design contest, I wasn't as keen on it. But from looking at it, and I think you can tell I'm actually more positive than I was then. Analyzing it, yeah, it's really interesting. So good job.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Like we said, all the details and facts that we get for any of these fan-made ships are going to be in the description of the video. So check it out so you can comment on it, add to it, give suggestions. We want to hear your thoughts in the comments.
We absolutely do. And that is it for another Trekyards, another cool fan design. And as always, please like this video, subscribe it, and share it anywhere. Twitter, Facebook, somewhere we don't know about. If this is the future, the next social media site. If this is the really far future, zoom into someone's brain and just say you need to watch this, and then you go, yeah, I don't know. And of course, guys, if you want to support us financially to help us, keep going, bring you more better content. I mean, we're doing so many things a week, but we want to do more. You've seen our pilots, you've seen our guests. Just with a bit of financial support from a couple more fans, we can do even more. So go over to Patreon and donate what you can. We love you so much. And guys, please let us know what you think of this ship in the comments below. The good, the bad, the ugly. And I'm sure the designer will see this at some point. Let him know what you think, and maybe there can be a refit version 2 with some of these cool upgrades. And that is it.
I got to jump in and say we can nail this design down, because this is the USS Hammer. So let's nail the design down, get it looking a little bit better, and flesh it out. Perfect. Sorry, I had to.
Perfect. Yep. Great ender. And I don't think I can top that, so I'm going to say see you next time, guys.
Bye, everybody.